So I think that's it. The seal's complete. I'm done. I just need to go back to the... where I started, I suppose. Piece of the monolith was stolen. Something in the monolith has transformed the worshippers into completely new creatures. Which is spooky. Oops. The seal was used in rituals by those who lived here in ancient times before the city was even founded. Alright. Back to where this all started. Time to find out what it costs to save the world. Or doom it. Could just doom it, could be fun. I mean, I guess either way, Oakmont is doomed, which is probably for the best. This place is a nightmare. So it's kind of nice to know that it'll be gone. That's not my house. This is the wrong place to go. I'm thinking of the old quest prompt. That's my bad. I'm supposed to go to Central Advent. By the big church. Let's do this. I mean, if we screw her up and get this whole place doomed, it's gonna be really embarrassing for the lady that we convinced not to cleanse herself. Because then she's gonna live through the catastrophe. Let's not do that to her. Hmm? Who's restocking this place, I wonder? Given that everyone has left. Important thoughts. Alright, 100% ammo. That's a healthy way to enter the finale. If we ever get to use a gun, that is. I don't know if a gun's really going to be a part of this. I mean, in general, even using guns feels slightly at odds with the entire premise of the story. Because I don't see eldritch abominations on this scale being the type that are even fightable with conventional weaponry. It's why when you play Elder Sign, for example, the whole goal is to keep them from waking up at all. Still the same cutscene, huh? Even in the finale? Yep. So, who wants to take the bet on whether or not he'll ever see the surface again? There aren't a lot of happy endings in these games. That's kind of the farce with engaging in this open world and exploring around it all this time, is like just knowing, of course, that like it's likely to all end with your protagonist being obliviated, and maybe also everything else you've seen. They're kind of just like flopping around. That's like a spire. There's vehicles down here. Another spire. Got underwater green fire. Boof. Loser. You just got yourself boofed. Haha. He's coming for me. Help. I haven't seen the tentacles in like 2 or 3 levels, I think. They became super rare. Those tentacles, I mean, not the other tentacles. Ouchies. Let me just fix that up. There we go. I mean, I guess we're going that way. That's clearly the spot I'm going into. Oh no. Wow. He does not go forward when he jumps off of a ledge underwater. Like the place that the spooky doorway that's probably where I need to go was like right there, but he just plunged straight down vertically. You could see the exact frame roll. Forward momentum was devoured. Alright, let's start this over. These are such a funny hazard to me. Given all the other things happening, all the factions that want to murder me, the Lovecraftian, eldritch, god, king, monster shit that's happening, and then the great causer of death underwater is... Ow! That geyser's hot. Oh. You weren't there a second ago. I saw you spawn on screen. That was naughty of you. Thankfully, if I climb up this ledge a little bit, he can't get me because he can't swim up a ledge. What? Don't go back that way. Aha, you can't swim slightly higher. I'm free. Silly monster. Hey, it's this guy. Is he gonna finally, like, attack me or do anything? He doesn't give a shit. He's cool looking. Yeah. Ooh, another one. Oh, a lot of them, seemingly. Yep. That's a big eldritch face right there. Am I supposed to go hopping off this, or is there a more gradual path? I don't really want to reload the whole thing. Oh. He's clipping into that building. Oh. Honestly, I assumed that these guys had pre-programmed paths and they always take the same path, but maybe they wander around randomly? Because he just went straight through the wall. This is the climax of the game, dude. You can't be pulling shit like that, demystifying the silly mega monsters that they've already demystified by being in the game too much, by having them swim straight through a wall. I mean, I guess if they did that in an intentional way, it'd be like, whoa, they're so powerful. But in a game, I'm just like, oh, he's glitching out. Poor buddy. Drain me. Drain my sanity. He actually stopped draining my sanity. I'm not gonna make it. Nope. Nope. Oh, okay, then we're safe. The meter's going back up. Oh, okay. My guy stopped moving and I didn't know what it meant. I was concerned. Yeah, it said Throgmorton on that screen, and I realized I haven't seen the Throgmortons in a long time. I thought he was going to be like one of my main characters I deal with throughout the game, but he was really around for like one quest, then went away. Yeah, that was on the wall when I first came in, huh? It was like a sculpture of the big monster. Further demystifying the biggest behemoth in the game by having a fucking model of it on the boat. Weird. Weird. Yeah, they really did do that choice. Hello. Ooh. Is something cool gonna happen down here? Monoliths are part of Katiganar. Yeah. I would expect so. Monoliths touched by the daughter. There's a possibility that the daughter can spread her influence with the monoliths. Chthonian monstrosity. The daughter's influence will be the strongest inside Katiganar. Whatever transformation awaits may be worse than death. Godlike creature. The daughter's influence will be the strongest inside Katiganar. With her help, I could gain power beyond belief. No, it's gonna really suck. Hate to break it to you, buddy. We're gonna have a bad day. And the decision's already made. In fact, the premise of these kinds of games is that usually the decision was already made before the game started, basically. Oh, okay. Ceiling's gone all goopy. I'd be more freaked out by that if it wasn't for the times that I've already seen that in the normal, non-hallucination levels. I've already seen buildings where the whole roof was like that, and it looked weird. I wasn't sure what to make of it. And that was what...
It's a shame you'll die here, Reed. This city has far worse men than you.
And then I killed you.
A lot of people want to leave Oakmont, kid. Few ever succeed.
Oh, and that was just a well-timed melee. They disappear on their own.
I want none of this to be real. To wake up in my bed in Boston, eat real food, drink good coffee, and forget it all.
That would be nice. Hey, giant crab. We're not going to be so lucky.
Let me be frank. You ain't welcome. You slip up, don't cross a T or dot an I, and I'll treat you like every other criminal in here, newcomer.
Who is he talking to? Is he talking to me? That guy's got... Did that cop... I think that cop just cut that guy's head off with a shovel. And he shot that guy.
Please help
Ooh.
me die.
Cthulhu.
I just can't.
Who is that character? I don't know if I know these characters or not, or if they're just randoms. She looks like the one that wanted to burn to death. Did she get stabbed to death by a cultist anyway? I'm not sure. My mind palace is going all goopy. Nope.
No mercy, boys. He's been asking for this.
There is nothing more vile than futility. Watching this happen again and again and doing nothing. We are the agents of change, Mr. Reed.
I took more of a sanity hit from finding a key in a book than I did from most of what just happened. Oh.
Please hurry, Reed. We can still save this city.
Did the ritual guy shoot himself?
End the suffering. The cycle will go on. You can't change who you are.
What did they all kill themselves to send me a message?
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.
Even him, huh? Are these just hypotheticals that didn't actually happen?
We're doomed to rot in this bog.
Because half these deaths don't make sense. I think this is like some kind of... this is just
There's a
me.
cycle. This has all happened before. She wants to be free, but she must not be, or else it all ends.
That is a lot of bodies. And that's me. Hello.
Destiny waits for no man, Charles. Decide now whether this ends in salvation or blood.
This looks a lot like where a boss fight would happen, basically. There's a goopy portal. A goopy portal. What do we got here?
I choose annihilation. The end of all cycles. Let everything die.
No, I don't.
I accept my fate. Unlike the cowards who came before me. My hidden daughter. I am coming.
There isn't even a slight bit of reason why he would ever do that. Do I just have to reenact?
Choose annihilation.
Yeah.
I accept my fate. Unlike the cowards who came before me. My hidden daughter. I am coming.
That mechanic still feels like it's like Dora the Explorer looking directly at the camera being like, "Can you tell what order these happened in? Very good." Oh yeah, not that one. What's around here? We're underwater.
I have made my choice. I willingly sacrifice myself like every seed before me. What is one life worth against all of humankind? Let the cycle restart. I have made my choice. Let the cycle restart.
So yeah, that one. Is there another option? Or just those two? There is another option. What would that even be?
I will not choose. I'll break the cycle and free all of us trapped in Oakmont.
What does that mean?
Enough is enough. I'm leaving this damn city and its madness behind. I will not choose. Enough is enough. I'm leaving this damn city and its madness behind.
But what does that mean? Also, can I save? This would be an excellent time to save. I mean, breaking the cycle is appealing. I don't know what it means, though. Like, we have a pretty binary choice. Keep her sealed up, or let her out. So how's there a third choice that is somehow neither of those things? Because yes, I would want to break the cycle. Breaking the cycle is good, because it means this doesn't keep happening. But what does it actually mean if I pick that one? What does it actually do? I don't know. Let's find out. I'm curious. That's a way out. I found a hidden control pallet in Katiganar. Seems like I could reopen Oakmont to the world, letting people leave. Previous seeds died when they entered Katiganar. I could free Oakmont. Seems the seal could be used to release Kataganar's hold on the city, allowing people to leave. What does that mean, though, for the cycle? Restarting the cycle is suicide. The previous seeds died, and the cycle kept repeating. The seed sacrifice must be the only way to restart it. If I enter the gates, I'll free the dreamer's hidden daughter. If I survive that, what's left of me won't even be human. The only way to prevent mankind's destruction is to restart the cycle by my suicide. The only way to prevent mankind's destruction is to restart the cycle by my suicide. Is that the only way to... let's just find out what this does. I don't understand what this option means, and I'm really curious. And even that conclusion says the only way is to sacrifice myself. So what does this do? Okay, so you basically can't pick that option. Like, that doesn't accomplish anything. The outcome is basically that your character gets to live, more or less. We won't let you skip the dialogue and this until the pop-up happens. I'll watch it the last time. Frogwares. So that's what happens. Manual save. So you can just get up and leave, which is bad, apparently. Because apparently it releases the seal so that everyone can leave Oakmont, including whatever influence this creature has expands beyond Oakmont. And so you essentially... You basically just still end the world. You still end up ending the world regardless. So now let's go save it. So did I just save them for the next 300 years, or was that a different thing that resets to that duration when it happens? Because there was other reoccurring curses in this game. But yeah, the entire game ends up sort of echoing the Weaver Granny Weaver, was that her name? It all echoes Granny Weaver's curse, where it's a bad thing. It shows up every 100 years. You beat it, it goes away. Which honestly makes this a really doable, not that crazy problem. Like, the scale of it is scary and it's unnerving and stuff, but like one person that's the chosen one just has to sacrifice themselves every 300 years.
Charles. Decide now whether this ends in salvation or blood.
All right, let's be a bastard. And there goes the sinking city. I had high hopes for this one a bit, and I'm pretty disappointed overall, which I'm sure you are not surprised by at this point because I've been mostly just complaining for the last 20 episodes, I'm sure. If you go back to the beginning, I was so hopeful. I was reading into that one mystery and all the atmosphere on that first dock, and I'm like, oh, look at all this stuff. Look at the creepy creatures. Look at this crazy, like, insanity outbreak where you can't tell if the guy is killed the guy because he's racist or because he hates Throgmortons or because he was actually being mind controlled. And I had the whole fun thing where I was going through loops and loops of overthinking it, trying to figure out what to think about, which way to go on that. And then I finally made a choice, which, as we saw later in the game, it was confirmed that I was right. And I actually did correctly solve that case, and that he was hired to kill the Throgmorton. And it wasn't just like random insanity. He used it to his advantage to spin the whole thing. That was neat. It never really hit that height again of the first mission for me of like, oh, this is interesting. Like it never got intriguing again. It's also rote. Every element of the entire game is so incredibly familiar and repetitive and just uninspired. And I'm really bummed out because I went into this being told that like this might be the best Lovecraft game ever made and stuff like that, which also was what people said when Call of Cthulhu came out last year. I think that game was probably better. I've probably played 4 or 5 Lovecraftian games, and some of them are pretty far off, like Imaginarium, I always want to say that because of Dr. Parnassus. Infectious Mind of Dr. Decker and stuff like that are like a little more off there and hard to compare directly, but as far as like a third-person adventure game, I probably liked Call of Cthulhu more, which had its own issues that I spent plenty of time pointing out, I think, but that one at least had like a linear narrative that had some sense of pacing and intrigue and wasn't just wasting your time with repetition. In fact, it kept bringing up different types of gameplay. Like, here's the monster that you interact with this way, and here's the monster you interact with this way, and like there's just a bunch of different things to do where like the gameplay was more varied despite the game being more linear, and there was more intriguing elements to the narrative and the characters here and there. Both games have some major cut corners in production, and they both seem really like games that were almost finished and then kind of like slapped together at the end because they just ran out of time and money or something. Because like there was some really glaring stuff in Call of Cthulhu that I don't super remember right now, but definitely stood out. But like it had some cooler visuals, it had some cooler gameplay segments and some ideas. Also had more to do with characters too, where this one every single mission had a standalone character that you would then never talk to ever again unless you choose to do their side quests. And almost all the side content was bad. There's only like 2 or 3 side quests that kind of had a cool little story to them, like the mirror and stuff like that, but a lot of them were like just padding for time, essentially. The gameplay and the story and the world are all just not great. You keep going into the same building over and over again, because there's only like 3 building types in the game, and you fight literally the same 4 monsters over and over again. There's 4 monsters above water and 2 monsters below water. The pecking tentacle thing and then the slappy tentacle thing are the 2 underwater ones. Above water, which is the vast majority of the game, there are only 4 enemy types total. The hand, the crawly charger guy, the projectile chest face chasm thing, and then the behemoth one. And that was all of them. There's just 4 enemy types. They had like a second variation where they were a slightly different color and slightly stronger sometimes, and that was it. And for some of them, the difference was so slight that it was hard to even tell and recognize. And you just shoot them. It might be the worst open world game I've ever played, as far as the open world goes. Not worst game that features an open world. I've definitely played worse games, but it might be the worst open world I've ever played in, because you just... And this is especially rough because I just played Pathologic 2 and I'm in the middle of playing Judgment, so I'm playing other open world-ish games where there's stuff to do and variety of gameplay type. Specifically, Pathologic 1 already was pretty cool, but had some repetition issues, and Pathologic 2 added so many systems and layered on to make the open world running around and scavenging and interactions, and all your moment-to-moment decisions feel intense and varied, and you're always dealing with something, and there's always a fire to put out, and stuff's always happening, and you actually have a meaningful resource management in an open world. It's an open world horror-ish game where your survival-ish mechanics actually mattered, and the things you were finding mattered, and supplies were important, which is one of the only times that's ever happened, because open world crossed with survival horror inventory management does not work, except in Pathologic 1 and 2, kind of, and basically never in any other game. So like, this game was already like making a bad choice by deciding to be that, having like Resident Evil and The Last of Us style like survival horror inventory management with like limited resources and so on, while being an open world. Like The Last of Us is a series of linear levels that where you're rewarded for exploring because you get the resources you need to buy to craft upgrades and hopefully survive the next gunfight via whatever health and bullets you find, and it's a back and forth with like, if you're really skilled you need less health and resources to win, but if you struggle a bit you can get rewarded by having found more stuff, so that can help patch the hole in your skill or your performance and stuff like that. Like, that's kind of how those games tend to work. This game didn't do either. Like, one, it's open world, so none of your resource management matters because you can just infinitely fix all of your problems if they ever do arise, which they really stopped existing pretty early on. Like, as soon as the shotgun happened in particular, I just didn't have resource shortages anyway, but even if I did, I could just pop into any safe building that happens to have a loot box in it and just pick up resources and then no longer have a problem. But also there's no resources to upgrade my character with, so like, unlike The Last of Us, I can't like find like, oh, that particular cupboard has one of the unique number of like leather straps that are in this game, which I need to craft to this upgrade that makes my shotgun carry more ammo, or I switch weapons faster, or I can carry more weapons at once, or anything. Instead it has that skill system where you just grind via experience, but also none of the upgrades were particularly valuable or interesting, so I didn't really care about them. I just was spending the points when they came up, and half the time they would stack up 2 or 3 at a time before I noticed I even had them, because it just wasn't a priority. Because when the difference between you having no skills and you having every skill is like, I have a 1 in 10 chance of double damage and other minor bit negligible bonuses, then it's basically like not having a skill tree, because the skill tree does so little for you overall that you can just beat the game without even putting points into it and not really even notice the difference, it would seem. Meanwhile, the narrative is just paint by numbers Lovecraft. Ooh, the city that's drowning and some unknowable thing is gonna get you, and oh, are you the special chosen one that's losing your mind, that's called here from an outside location, and now you can't leave until you get down to the bottom of this whole thing? And every time you investigate stuff, you might go a little crazy, and at the end you have to choose to probably sacrifice yourself in order to keep the sleeping one from awakening. And like, I knew how this was gonna end when I started playing it. And then it basically just ended that way. And it's like, come on. It's really just disappointing that, like, built into the narrative of Lovecraftian works is this idea of the fear of the unknown. And yet every adaptation that I see of this stuff is the opposite of the unknown. They just make the most rote, familiar adaptation possible with zero surprises in it. Like, at least I kind of wouldn't know what was going to happen next during Call of Cthulhu, because they were just doing really weird things from chapter to chapter. But this game, like, half the chapters didn't even necessarily push the narrative forward, because at the end of the day, it's like, oh, we immediately know that there's an old one that's making the bad happen, and I'm probably gonna have to stop it. And then it felt like there was like, it's like a 10 chapter game probably, where the majority of the chapters are just kind of the game spinning its wheels and just sending me around the map and meeting factions that ultimately will not have an impact on me even interacting with the old one in the first place. They're just like the people that happen to be in this world. Which, like, sure, maybe they're just trying to do world building, but, like, the open world itself was so copy-pasted. It was the same handful of NPCs, the same interactions, the same, like, signs over every building, and the same repeating pieces of debris, and the same, neighborhoods just repeating. And when you went to buildings, it was just the same handful of buildings with the same handful of monsters, so it's like, the world didn't stand up to scrutiny. It both wasn't fun to play in and also wasn't fun to look at after the first bit, because once you saw the beginning of it, you saw all of it. Like, having the game be a much more cordoned off area and a series of linear missions that don't involve you wandering around the map, but instead being like, oh, this chapter takes place in this neighborhood, could have been so much more controlled and concise, and they could have really had crazy attention to detail to each individual mission's area, because they set it up a little bit in that this game does have different neighborhoods that have a slightly different feel. And so if it was a more linear game where each chapter took place in one of those neighborhoods perhaps, and you were slowly working your way around the entire city uncovering some kind of mystery, like they could have created some kind of compelling levels where it's like there's, you know, actual level design, like, oh, the player's going to approach this environment in this way, so we put enemies there or that thing over there so that they see that in just the right way from that angle. And, like, you know, there's just the basics of level design, like these ideas of, like, you can control the flow of the player and create an experience where, like, this is level where this happens and that's level where that happens. Because when you play like a third-person shooter that has a campaign, each level feels different. But when you do this, where it's an open world, and then you're so strained for resources that you just to make the entire game takes place in 4 buildings total, where that repeat over and over again, like, none of it felt different from any other part of it. The only slight thing was, like, this, at the very, very, very beginning of the game, the enemies were scaling up a little bit, so it's like, oh, there's just hand creatures now. Oh, that guy's standing up. Oh, that's a little weird bulldog thing. Oh, that's a big guy. I'm afraid to deal with him. I don't have a shotgun yet. But, like, that curve, that slight progression curve died very quickly, which is what happens when you have 4 enemies total. And so when that happened, it really did just become the same thing. Enter building, click on all the spots that unlock the mystery, which you always solve every mystery the exact same way, which is always boring when you're using a template for your missions. They didn't seem to be questioning, like, does this complement this structure, or does this complement it, or is this the particular style that would make this particular mission pop, or does this complement the themes and the setting of what's happening at the moment? It's like, no, you always enter the building, everything starts attacking you, you kill everything that attacked you, then you click on all the stuff until you unlock the complete evidence key collected icon. And sometimes, if they really want to mix it up, you might follow some ghosts for a second. But the vast majority of the time, you just click on everything until the spooky, wibbly wobbly mist shows up. You walk into the mist and then click on the 3 story events in order, which will always then replay after you click on them, so you always have to hear them twice. And it's always really obvious what happened, but you have to put them in order anyway for some reason. And then they usually don't even add insight to the mission, but you have to do that to finish the investigation anyway. And there's always one, even though, like, they usually, like, sometimes I would find a note that just explained what happened in great detail and completely blew the whole case wide open and defeated the purpose of further investigation. But I still had to poke around until the vision happened and then have the vision repeat what the note already told me so that I could then continue with the story. And it's like, I'm not investigating. I don't have to deduce anything in this game. Like, I'm confused that this is supposed to be from people who make Sherlock games, because this game single-handedly makes me not want to play any of the Sherlock games, which I was kind of thinking of playing someday. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they're better than this, let me know. But I, like, seeing that this is a game that they made, and it's also a game about some kind of detective that you're playing as, I'm like, these are not good investigation mechanics. I don't have faith that any of their games are that good then, if this is the latest and greatest of what they've made. Because it's just, none of the gameplay loops were good. The game wasn't scary. It's like what I pointed out really, really early on in the campaign, before all the other stuff was standing out to me as being a disaster, was the fact that, like, their idea of, like, your character's going crazy, man, would be to have the game go fisheye and then show a weird, like, projection of a video thing always perfectly, like, on the center right of the screen. And it would be, like, zoomed in, then be zoomed out, and then it would flicker out, and then it would do that. And like, before the other stuff was starting to really wear on me, I was already commenting on the fact that, like, that is incredibly predictable and rote and uninspired. And, like, the first time I saw it, it seemed kind of cool, like, whoa, what's going on? I haven't quite seen this shown that way before. But then, every time you ever lose some sanity for the rest of the game, for dozens of hours of gameplay, it always does the same thing. It always shows the doctor with a gun, or it shows Reed hanging from his neck, or it shows the bulldog thingy lunging at you, or it shows that one blobby tentacle thing. It's like that, and maybe one other one. I think there might have been, like, an insane asylum looking guy or something. Like, it just looped the same, like, 5 visions over and over again the entire game. And it's like, none of this game benefited from being super long or open world, and they could have put resources towards much more important gameplay loops if they didn't lean so heavy on that. And part of what shows the desperation of, like, trying to make such a long game have content at all is the fact that they blow their load immediately and have you go underwater in, like, chapter 1 or 2, and they continue to do it. I think they send you diving like 5 or 6 times in a game that only has, like, 9 main missions total. So, like, in the majority of the main missions of the game, you dive down into an eldritch ruin underwater. It's like, that's like, it's even that part was familiar and repetitive. Like, at some point I was gonna start giving the giant tentacle dude that just drifts by and doesn't do anything a nickname, because he was so familiar to me. Like, oh, it's that guy, look at him go, see you later, buddy. I don't, this is a disaster. And, like, the go-to explanation for half the things I would say is people would come up back with the excuse of, like, they're not a AAA company and they don't have the resources and other stuff like that. But, like, they're not new at this. Like, you pick your battles, and they chose to make this kind of game knowing what their resources were like, and it was a horrible idea. I'm confused. And I'm really confused by the people that are like, this is the best Lovecraft game ever made. Because, I don't know. I don't know if they're just, like, super easily impressed by a game that has basically no good gameplay, no good horror, and no good, like, not even particularly good Lovecraft. Or it's just that that's how bad Lovecraft games are. Because admittedly, they're really iffy so far, the ones that I play. One of these days, maybe I'll finally cover Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth. and see that one, because that's the other long-term big candidate that has the upside of also being old. So if people are still recommending that, then it might actually be the best Lovecraft game, because a lot of these other Lovecraft games that come out that are like, oh my god, it's the best one so far, a year later people are already forgetting it ever existed. But people keep talking about Dark Corners of the Earth, so maybe I'll get around to that one of these years and find out if that's been the best one all along, and then maybe we can just stop playing Lovecraft games. I don't know. But this has been The Sinking City. If you liked it, then congrats. It's fine. I don't begrudge you enjoying things, but I am so... I really... like, I wanted to like this thing. You can go back to the beginning and be like, see me being all wide-eyed and optimistic about the whole thing, because I thought there would be more to it after the first episode, but then there wasn't more to it. That was all of the gameplay that they had for me, basically, for the rest of the game. Alright. Well, thanks for watching like always, guys, and I'll see you next time. Probably in a game that I'll enjoy more.